To close an enterprise level deal, there's an art and a science to it. On this episode, we're going to tell you what that art is and what the science is and how you can do this successfully. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode today, we have an amazing guest. This guest today is going to be giving you some insights on stuff that's going to make you ooh when it comes to closing enterprise level deal. David Blaha is our guest, and he has some knowledge when it comes to closing enterprise level deal. Not only has he done it as an individual, but also as a sales leader. And now he's working with an amazing organization, and I'm telling you, they're doing some fantastic stuff. The enterprise level deals, though, the thing about it, it's not that complicated. There's just simple things that you should be doing. There are many different steps that you probably could take advantage of, but David is going to break down 5 of them for us today. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe, because we're going to notify you every time we got a new episode, as well as we're going to give you some content and ideas that's going to help you to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline and help you to increase your close rate. Promise. Now, go ahead, dive in, listen to it, get an understanding of David's background, why we believe so well in him, and those 5 things, he's going to outline them and see how you can apply these. David, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Don. Appreciate it. Happy to be
Looking
here.
forward to this. Thank you, man. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And in particular, we see that many of us are selling selling upstream. We're going for some larger deals. And in that vein, some of us may have been rusty on how we can close some of those enterprise level deals. So I want to take this opportunity to be able to help us to be able to re-engage or to understand how we can be more effective at that. Before we dive into that conversation, I think it makes sense for us to learn a little bit more about you. I bragged a little bit in a teaser with your amazing bio, but tell us a little bit more about what you do, man.
Oh, appreciate it. So look, I've been at it for about 30 years or so, working across a lot of different enterprise-sized opportunities. A lot of my career and background came from American Express. At the time I left Amex, I was general manager of our large market business. So that was sort of our sales organization, as well as account development teams also. So really managing some of those giant relationships, like ones that are very public with Amex today, Hilton and Delta and, Home Depot, et cetera. So a lot of really, really big partnerships for Amex. So a lot of opportunities to, work in big situations, big negotiations, boardroom kind of meetings. Over a bunch of years. Left Amex, you're great, and so
you've done it. You're telling me about these companies, like, man, come on, man, this guy got some stories today.
Yeah. And well, here's what I'll say. Most of them end well, but you know what? It's you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about negotiation and those kind of relationships through those. And I wouldn't call them battles, because I don't think of them that way. It's just interactions. But anyway, left Amex about 5 years ago. Started working with early stage startup companies and advising CEOs around their go-to-market strategy. A lot of work around sort of how to build out their model, how to get into market, how to grow, whether it was sales, marketing, and a whole lot around leadership as well. I'm real passionate about leadership. But one of the companies I was working for as an advisor was Extend. And didn't take long before they realized, and I realized, we were really a good fit given my background and experience with the team. And so I joined as the Chief Revenue Officer 2 years ago. And, we've been growing and rolling and, getting after it ever since. So
I love it, man. Well,
yeah.
Congratulations. And this
Thanks.
is why I thought it made sense to have you on this podcast, because the wealth of knowledge you have can definitely help, shave off some time for many of us sellers. Why try to reinvent the wheel when we got David to give us some insights here?
You know what, Donald, I've been listening to a few of your podcasts, getting ready for our conversation, and it's interesting. There's so many good people that I've had the opportunity to hear you speak to, and some of the things that they've said along the way. And here's what I'll tell you: after 30 years, continuing to learn is just critical. And what you do, and as an evangelist and bringing people together is, I don't care how long you've been after it. there's always new things to learn, new ways to grow, and to continue to, increase your understanding of the space. So yeah, I'm excited to, hopefully there's a little bit of, experience or knowledge I can impart. But what I always find in conversations like this, I sometimes learn more than I probably give away. That's what makes it.
Oh, well, I love it. Well, let's talk about this. Closing is one of those areas. You mentioned negotiation.
Yeah.
And I think closing is that there's a fine art to effective closing. And I'm not talking about where, sometimes people just feel like if you just discount or you give like, pull out some really savvy question at the end, and you're going to be closing. I think you and I are from the same camp where it's a process. And especially on an enterprise level, there are more things that we need to be aware of when it comes towards winning more opportunities. So I want to pick your brain on that. And I know you said there's probably about 5 main ideas. The problem that we come across when it comes towards closing is, people just go with the premise. Like I've seen it, and I see it multiple times where sellers will they get done with the conversation with the prospect, and then it's kind of just like hoping by osmosis, like now it's just going to happen, like close is just going to come. So it's like, all right, so look forward to hearing from you. Tell me. So, but that's the problem I'm seeing. Tell me about the problem you're seeing when it comes to closing, especially right now these days.
Yeah, well, look, I think I love what you said. It's either that, like I walk out of the room like, hey, hope you call, or you use some cheesy sort of, and I pick on, sometimes car sales folks who you will find amazing people working in that industry that really understand customers and know how to sell. But there's nothing worse than, okay, Donald, what's it going to take for me to get you in that car today? Like those cheesy clotheslines that, we know. It's coming. You hate it. So, look, here's what I would say. For what I do at Extend now. So we work with some of the largest institutions in the world, banks, processors, and networks. We work with American Express, Visa, MasterCard, with giant, software companies like SAP. With payment processors like Global Payments. Because what we do is we build modern payment capabilities that we take to market through strategic partnerships. So we're trying to deliver great solutions to end companies where they can stay with the bank or software company they already work with today in an embedded fashion, perhaps. So in order to do that, you're talking about 2 or 3 year sales cycles. Literally that long. You don't move fast with an entity of the names that I just mentioned. You're going to meet people across their technologies, their business, finance, procurement, etc. So you got to go in with an approach that this is going to take a long time. I got to establish a lot of connections. And then if I do all those things right along the way, and I'll talk about some principles in a minute, 5 principles, but if I do all those things right, closing should have already happened at each step. I am closing this thing along the way. So when I get to the end, now we're talking about it's assumptive. At the end of this process, I literally am talking about, okay, the implementation process. Okay, what's our next step that we need to do in order to move this part forward to the implementation, the contractual components to it? It's never, at least for me, I never go down this path of this, cheesy close, because if I'm doing that, that's because I'm chasing an RFP. I don't belong there. I'm hoping that maybe, we're going to pull a miracle, those, you never win those. You just work really hard to lose. And that's not what enterprise selling is all about. So
this, I feel like enterprise selling is like that ultra marathon. Like you're running this race, and it's not just for the faint of heart. Somebody who just got up and say, hey, I want to go run. It's like, bro, you got to understand the game. You got to train, you got to prep.
Absolutely. But what's cool though is even smaller companies. So even if you're, let's say you're selling mid-market or you're selling to smaller companies where it is far more transactional. I think the principles are still the same principles. They're just condensed. So it's not a 3 year, it's a 1 year. It's not a 1 year, it's a, 1 month. But the same principles of sort of how you approach it, I think are still the same principles. Heck, it might even be a transactional within a day. but it's still, how do I connect? How do I form that relationship? How do I understand your needs? How do I probe deeper? How do I adapt my solution to what and then how do I actually negotiate in such a way that, it's good for both of us? If I follow that mindset, I'm going to be in a good spot.
So you started labeling these things, and I want to get them written down. You started rattling off some of those principles there.
Yeah.
What are those 5 things? And maybe tell us real quick in 10, 15 seconds, and then we can just break each of them down.
Perfect.
Is that fair?
First one is mindset. Let's just begin there. Let's just talk about mindset before you even jump into the process with a partner, or maybe you're already in the process, but mindset's number 1. 2 is connecting to, who are all the decision makers, players, voices that are going to be part of this process. 3, discovery. Okay, now I've got connections. What kind of curiosity am I bringing to the game to just learn, uncover what those needs really are. 4th is adapting or adjusting. This is, okay, now I've learned a lot. Now, how can I take what I do, what we have, what we bring to the table, and present it or adapt it or adjust it in such a way that it'll add value and mean something. And then lastly is, the negotiation, contract negotiation, whatever. But now we actually are trying to get this thing papered or a firm commitment. And so what's that negotiation got to look like? So those are the principles.
All right, let's go with the first one. We could probably take a couple minutes on each of them. I'm sure we can. That's probably 5 different episodes we probably could really do. But when it comes to enterprise
let's
closing,
see. If it's good, you might want me back. If not, you'd be like, okay, it's a one and done.
Let's do it. Let's make a note. We may bring them back, guys. But mindset. Why is that critical when it comes to enterprise closing?
Okay, I think it's critical when it comes to sales, mindset, but particularly enterprise. And I think for enterprise, it's because you are going to face an elongated, life cycle of a decision. You are going to face multiple no's from different places. Maybe one department, one group, one team, one leader, whatever. There's going to be people who want to do what you're talking about, and others that there's no way they want to do what you're talking about because of their competing scorecards or goals or whatever that is. The finance department is looking at ROI. The business is looking for growth or retention of customers. Technology is like, okay, can we even fit this thing in with a huge amount of other stuff we got to get done? So different voices, disparate voices that have different opinions. So that mindset going into it has to be one of, I'm okay with no. I'm okay with, disappointment through the process. But I think the biggest part of the mindset is that, and it's funny, if you follow great athletes, coaches, business leaders, you'll hear this word about process all the time. They just fall in love with the process, not the result. They fall in love with the grind, not the outcome. It's sort of like, because all I can control is the process. I really can't control the outcome. Things can change at the company. They could go out of business, whoever, change it, whatever could happen with the organization I'm dealing with. But what can I control is the process and, the effort and the things that I put forth. So I think that mindset, which is, I can take it, I can take disappointment along the way, but I have I just bring a level of positivity, Donald, to sort of my day and my approach that, I'm just going to stay after it. I'm going to do the things I know how to do. I've heard this said before, I'm going to do the, common things in uncommon ways. There's a guy named Bill Lauder who I listen to, who I like a lot. I listened to Rob Dial, 2 episodes in the gym this morning, Rob Dial, Mindset Mentor, which is all about, just perseverance, positive self-talk, and so that mindset, particularly for people that are in sales, biz dev roles, is just so important. I'm not saying you have to have a level of confidence or arrogance that, doesn't see the problems for what they are, but if you're not bringing energy and excitement to the conversation, then it's not going to be in the conversation. And so why am I talking to you? So I think mindset is that starting point in sales, particularly in.
I agree. And I think that's go back to what you just mentioned, like that it helps give that perseverance, or helps give you this sense of like, I don't know, like stick-to-itiveness, when you have the right mindset and you're not getting easily offended because of a rejection or because of things are getting tough. you can persevere through a lot. I mean, I think about what we can go back to the ultra marathon. Like I see people run that, like they run 100 miles. Like
Yeah.
the human body, what we can do, it's like remarkable. And it's not because those people are superhuman or come from Krypton or anything like that. They're just people. So your mindset does give you this ability to unleash and do so much more. So,
Yeah.
all right, I got my mindset right.
Yep.
Talk to me more about the connection component. If you're getting your mindset, how does connection relate to this?
Yeah. So, for me, connection is a little bit of everything. And I was listening to, one of the podcasts, I think it was Chris Beal that you had on recently,
Yeah.
and he was trying to think of the quote he had. It was sort of like, fear of the unknown stranger, is something he said. And, it was about cold calling. Um,
Yeah.
and what I try to do is just limit my cold calling. And cold calling can be like if it's transactional sales, or cold calling can be if I'm in a situation where, I'm just trying to connect to new people in a large organization. So again, if I'm thinking about working with, a Delta Airlines, or, an American Express, or, an entity like that, there's a lot of people in a lot of different places that have very, different targets, scorecards, goals, things they're trying to achieve. So I want to build as many connections as I possibly can in an organization so that I can leverage those connections, understand what those different departments, what those folks are looking for, what's important to them. So as I really start to build through what we're going to do, how we're going to deliver it, I've got a lot of data points.
Hmm.
I'm not going to find out 6 months or a year into it, like, oh my gosh, I never talked to the folks over here in risk and compliance. They really don't like what we're doing, or there's you know what I'm saying? I've got to make sure I connect the dots in a lot of places. So I think the connection broadly matters. But I also think we've got to work on our just individual connections on a regular basis. I mean, there's probably not a day that goes by that I don't add 5 or 10 new connections, on LinkedIn or in other places. And I'm open to it. Now, I try to, select and connect to people that I know, or that I'm connected in, that secondary, and there's a number of people. But I'm always looking for pathways to relationships that could be important for our business, for maybe the work that I'm doing, or just maybe where I can add value. And I had a friend recently that was, picking on me, that said like, oh, it's the chief encouragement, LinkedIn officer, what can I help you with? And he's like, I see a lot of your posts. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I really want to encourage. I want to be that person that, I see you got promoted. I see you got a new role, a new accreditation. I mean, those things matter to me. So I don't know, Donald, it's expanding that network. And as you've been at it, like I have for a period of time, you start to see the value of that network in ways that you can connect parties to other parties, businesses to other businesses, help people with jobs, or perhaps just help the work that you're doing in a different part of the organization through the sales process. So yeah, connections are everything. I have all my kids read this book, The Little Black Book of Connections. It's probably like 20 years old. I don't know if there's some things in here that are out of date. All I know is, it's about friendly, positive, add value, all those things that matter when you're growing your connections. And it's just important.
Was that Gittimer? That one?
Yeah. This is Gittimer's book. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, and the first one I got, the first sales book was Little Red Book of Selling.
Yeah. It's over there in a bookcase.
So Gittimer was my very first guest on this podcast.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
We've had him on a couple of times since. But yeah, the concepts and principles were, they're powerful, and they're age old. Like they'll continue to live beyond for the eternities.
Eternal common sense, but it's so often it's crazy how many people don't take advantage, perhaps, of them and leverage them.
And I think that's what it comes back to. Is just because it's so easy and so common sense that they're like, yeah, I know that. But again, if everybody did that what they're supposed to do, then I think the diabetic rate would be totally lower in this country, some of the other health issues. We know what we're not supposed to do, but we don't do it. But doing those commonsensical things, I think that there's a lot of geniusness towards that. So
Yeah, there's one principle he has. He has like 12 principles in the book, and I think one of them around connections is, it's being genuine.
Yeah.
Sounds simple, but yeah, be genuine and add value, provide value. So that's what I always try to find with connections or connections I'm
Hmm.
adding is, I want to be genuine in my understanding of their needs, and then I want to look for ways to add real value. If I'm gonna meet with you and you're part of the process of the sale, how can I really try to add value for what you're trying to do?
So that's what it's going to go back to. I'm connecting with these people in these various departments within this organization. Do could I be, because some might say, do I hurt my deal if I, with the main champion, by bringing in a non-supporter? And I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Like I went and poked a bear.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Look, I guess you could argue there's always some risk, uh,
hmm.
but maybe, I'd rather know that risk and have heard from that risk and know that, okay,
Yes.
wait a second, the marketing team over here, they've got a different solution, a different partner. There's a way they're approaching this, and what we're doing maybe is threatening something that they're trying to do, or maybe it
Yeah.
just doesn't align with the messaging. At some point it comes up and it bites you in the butt, one way or the other, it's going to show up. So I'd rather uncover all of those things and then I can dig deeper and understand, okay, why that partnership? What are you trying to achieve? What's the messaging you're after? And then perhaps I can start to realign what we're doing or how we present ourselves so that it actually is not in conflict, but it's in concert. It increases what their effort and energy is, not goes against it. The more of that,
Ag-
you know, the better you are, right?
yeah. Agreed. I like it. All right. So we have the mindset. We are connecting with people. We're
Yeah,
knowing folks in the organization, bringing
yeah,
value to them, and
yep,
opening doors.
yeah,
Now the discovery. Talk to us
yeah,
about that part.
yeah. Discovery, and I sort of hinted on it, just a couple pieces to it, but it is that curiosity along the way, and genuinely, I think one of the challenges most salespeople have, or a lot of salespeople, particularly earlier in their career, they're so eager to tell their story and they're so eager to talk about their solution that they miss the greatest opportunity, which is to understand, what's Donald want? Why does he want it? What does he need? What's his problem? What's the burning platform? What's he challenged with? And it takes some EQ. You can't just walk in and ask somebody 30 questions because then it feels like an interrogation. Like, I don't know you. Why would I let you ask me 30 questions? But there's got to be some amount of asking good, high impact, open ended questions, reacting to the responses to those, trying to get into good conversations that I walk out of this meeting with a good understanding of what you need to accomplish, what you need to get done. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing and places it fits, but also I'm going to be transparent and say, you know what, Donald, some of what you just told me today, there's a couple parts of our product that just, I think you've made it loud and clear, might just not be a good fit. But I really appreciate what you said about you trying to reduce cost, or you've got a 10% growth target, or you got an ROI challenge, or there's something that, or you're trying to get into the mid-market space, you're trying to go up market, and my tool could help you, or at least this part of it. So I think a lot of that is, we'll get into the fourth point, which is then adjusting. But I can't really adjust my approach and my solution and what we're doing and what we bring if I haven't really understood, and asked great questions of you. And again, enterprise, I need to do that through a whole bunch of different groups within their organization. A lot of
Yeah.
different people who have a lot of different scorecards and are approaching, business very differently. So yeah, that's it. It's deep curiosity, and it's again genuine curiosity against multiple meetings that I really want to know what are y'all trying to do at the Sales Evangelist? What are the big
Yeah.
things you're struggling with? How can we help based on what we do? So anyway, that's number 3.
And I wrote down that curiosity is one of my favorite words, because when you think of curiosity, it just I think it's one of the the qualities that has advanced mankind in so many different ways. People are curious what's on the other side of that ocean, or curious what's underneath that rock, or curious what's on up over that mountain. And it just helps us advance. And I think it's the same thing with an enterprise level deals. If I'm going into this thing thinking about myself, like I just want to get money, as opposed to I want to see how I can help you, or how you can help the sales evangelist. Like that curiosity allows for us to be able to go to places we probably would never have gone. No pun intended, but it also gives us this opportunity to discover ways that we can assist. And I think that's what makes, and I've seen it firsthand, that's what's made some of my deals larger, because we were curious and discovered that there was more challenges that they had than what was presented at the surface, which led to, bigger contract, longer deals, and happier customers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But it's almost like it works in two ways. Curiosity. I think one is you learn what you need to know, so that's critical. But curiosity is also very attractive. And you think about, like, when you go to a dinner party, or you're at a conference or whatever, and you meet someone, and they quickly just, man, they are going off on them, their company, their thing, their whatever, blah. Man, you are tapping out. Get me out of this conversation. This is dreadful. And then you meet that person that just asks you, really good questions, back to back to back. They share too. It's not it doesn't feel like an inquisition, but they're really curious about you. It becomes very attractive. That's somebody that, it's genuine. They have interest in me. They have interest in us. They want to help us. I'll take another meeting. In fact, I'm happy to introduce them to my leader. It's because I see value there in that. So that one that's a big one for me. Sometimes
I had to say it.
Go ahead.
Take me to your leader. I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
So it makes total sense, and I agree with you. It makes it gives me this sense of, I thought about me at networking events, and obviously going to these conferences, you find that while you were saying it, I was picturing those people that I've built good relationships with, and it's because they were interested in me, and I'm like, dang. That's right, because now we're business colleagues, or we became clients, or we have a relationship. Like there's friendship there because of that. So you're 100% right.
I got a couple of friends I can think that way. That outside of the business context, that like every time they reach, they call, whatever, I see them, they're like, how you doing, David? How's how things at company? How's Extend doing? How's your wife? How's the kid? And they are genuinely interested and curious. And they remember also the last conversation. It's not like a start over, like, okay, you're asking me these questions, they remember the kid's names, your wife's name, your spouse's name, your partner's name. They remember you. They remember your things, hey, dude, whatever happened with that thing you were dealing with, did that turn out okay? And it's very attractive. And so from a sales, business development, I think, the principles are the same. We're human beings talking to other human beings. It's not like when we put on our business hats and go to work, all of a sudden we leave our human self home. Our human self is still 100% part of the discussion. So are we bringing that kind of, value and care into that conversation? So that was 3.
Love it. 4. All right, we got some good stuff. We got to, you guys, see, this is why this problem talking to David. He has some good knowledge, and it just makes it challenging to get through all of it. Number 4 is David.
Okay, 4 be a little quicker, because I think 4 is just a perfect offshoot of 3. 4 is I ask a lot of questions. Now I adjust. Okay, here's my solution in a box. I want to get it out of the box. What are the parts to that solution that really matter to you? And whether I'm talking a big strategic deal, which means maybe I'll go build pieces to our puzzle, maybe we'll do some development work. And I can think of deals right now that we're doing with, big processors or banks that want to go in a white label pathway, or perhaps want to go in a co-branded way, or perhaps want to integrate us in their solution behind firewalls or out in front, or maybe they want a certain something for their end customers as they go to market. Those are obvious if the opportunity is big enough and it makes sense. Okay, how could we adjust it or adapt it to do exactly what you need it to do? But even if it's more transactional to a mid-market customer or a smaller customer, again, maybe it's just understanding that need and then making sure that the components of my solution or capability fit up against specifically what those needs are. But again, it's the adjusting to what that customer is looking for. That's cool.
Love that. And that, I think that last component is critical. Being willing to do that adjustment, right? I've found where I've worked at organizations where the company was self-centered, to be honest. Like, they're focusing on their outcome, so it wasn't necessarily willing to adjust to help people. And in my experience, when we have adjusted to help folks, not saying we're going to change over our whole solution for you, but when we adjust to help you, you appreciate that more. It does help. And then again, the long-term game with this is because now you're going to upgrade, you're going to stick with that contract. You may even sign a longer contract, and we get a lot more from it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Love it. All right.
Okay.
Come down to the last component, negotiation and asking. Talk to me about that fifth principle when it comes to enterprise level deals.
Okay. So first off, my team will probably tell you this, or, I love negotiating.
You're lighting up when you were talking about that at the top of the episode. So
I really do. I really do. And,
why? Why do you love it so much?
Because I don't think of it as an adversarial situation. I think of it as two people or two organizations that have needs. And if I've worked really hard to understand throughout this process, now it's the puzzle of putting it together. And also always think of, particularly enterprise, come into this with somewhat of a clean canvas, right? And say, okay, obviously, and be really transparent. Here's what I want. You know what I'm looking for, Joe. We've talked about this a bunch of times. I know what you're looking for. How do we pen a deal that works for both of us? It can be this, it can be this, it can be this time frame or this time frame. It can be this broad or this narrow, but we clearly want to do business together. So what is it that will, what's the pathway to get this over the finish line for you that would work in your organization, and the pathway that would get it over the finish line in my organization? So I believe in, radical candor. It's not just from a book that I've read and looked through a number of times, but I'm very candid, very transparent. I'm going to let you know exactly what I want, and I want to know exactly what you want. And I don't want to play a game, but I approach the negotiation. There's a couple of, components to it. First, negotiate in good faith. People say that, but good faith means I want a deal. I want a deal that works for both of us. I don't want to, I'm not looking for ways to, trick. Good faith just means I want to be a good partner in this negotiation. We're going to have to live together afterwards. So why wouldn't I want this negotiation to be something that's advantageous for both of us, that truly is, growth mindset focused, so that's first part. Second thing is I negotiate for growth. I look at, I could care less, and this might, some people may disagree with me on this. I could care less about the margin on a deal, meaning the basis points or whatever that margin component is. I want a small slice of a giant piece of pie. I don't want a big slice of a small pie. I want you to be motivated as heck to grow with me, and so I want, so if the deal is too far-sighted my way, then I'm never going to get the growth of the, margin dollars. I'm going to get margin percent, but not the margin dollars that I'm ultimately looking for. So I want to negotiate for growth. I want us both to be motivated for growth. As I said, I want to be transparent, and I want to be direct and assumptive. At that point where we've gone through this, hey, Donald, we're walking out of here with a deal. I know we both want to do this. Too many conversations. So let's assume we're going to get there. What does it have to look like for you to get it through your organization and for me to get it through my organization? What are the components we have to sort of wrestle to the ground? Because there's always non-negotiables. There's things like, okay, your company has never done this, will never do this. I need to know what those things are. And mine has never done this, will never done that. So let's get those on the table, and then let's work towards where we can, knock this thing out.
The whole idea behind this is, again, go back to the conversation, but it's definitely not adversarial. Like you mentioned, it's more of this. At this point, we've gone through all of this. We've come this far. we
Yeah.
both recognize that there's we have something, you have something that could benefit us, and we dare definitely you could work with us. And at this point, it's just like, how can we fine tune? And I think the beginning part, going back to mindset, going back to the connection, and the discovery so far, makes it very easy at this point to have that level of conversation, because now I feel I could say stuff because we're no longer strangers or friends. I can I can really say what I feel, and you can say what you feel. And that's
Yep.
where the negotiation come in. Like, we are going to adjust and make it work. And it's not like you came into this thing with, when I think of negotiation, like I'm going to go and inflate my price because I want to hustle them down to a level. It's negotiation is where what, like you just said, what does it take to make it work? It's kind of like getting in equilibrium.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
I got some money. You got a car. I want a car. You want to sell a car. Okay. Let's just, how do we get to a place where I feel good and you feel good? What is it going to take? What's the margin you got to make? What's something I got to feel like,
Yeah.
and that's simplifying it. One thing though, the tricky part in enterprise is often when you get to that phase, sometimes the other side, pulls out, some new people at the last
Yeah.
second. Here comes a chief procurement officer, and I've dealt with a lot of chief procurement officers, okay, that's great that Donald, and it's great that he likes you, and y'all have a great relationship, and I know y'all talk about this price. Here I come, 20% off of whatever y'all been talking about. And those are always a lot of fun. But again,
Like,
if
dang,
I go
Barbara,
back,
come on.
yeah, like, well, you're killing me. But you know what? If I go back up to principle number 2, connection, and
Yeah.
I've done my work across the organization, I've got a lot of people that I can lean on to say, hey, Jim, Sue, Barbara, whatever. I just got out of a meeting with your chief procurement officer. Great guy. Understand what he's trying to do. But here's where we are. We've had some candid conversations along the way. That blows up the deal. You know it and I know it. So I need some help here. Help
Yeah.
me overcome this. Because I get it. That person may want to bite at the apple. But if they're going to get a bite at the apple, then I got to get a little more pie. We got to increase the pie. So give me access to this. I'll go where they want to go, but I need more access to overcome that. So how do we work through that? But again, more connections, more places, I overcome that. Never worry about that because I expect it. Okay, here comes somebody whose role is to grind off a little bit more. Get it. They're not bad people. It's just what they do. Just like salespeople are trying to sell a solution. So understand it, but, do your work ahead of time, and it's never a challenge.
David, you could have a master class on this, on the negotiation side. We probably need to bring you back to talk just negotiation.
Yeah, it's,
another day. This is
I'll
amazing.
light up. Yeah, you see, I'm not afraid of it. Now, that's not to say there haven't been some meetings I've been in my life that, you walk out of the room and you're like, whoa, that was rough.
I got beat up on that one.
Yeah. But you know what? I never think of it as I got to win. I want to close business. I want to grow. I want to live to see another day. I want to go get more. And maybe you get a little more than I wanted to give this time, but I get a little more access to something different. And that's how I think about it.
It's been amazing, man. I love this. So many great principles today, David. If folks want to get in touch with you to learn about you or extend and all the good stuff you guys are doing, what is the best way for them to go about that?
A couple ways. David at Pay with Extend. That's pretty easy. That's my email, David at Pay with Extend. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I don't think there's a lot of David Blahas out there. There's probably some, but I know there's only one at Extend. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect, love to talk about these principles. But for Extend, what we do is we allow probably 50+% of companies right now in the U.S., and some in Canada, with more on the way. By the end of the year, maybe 60+% of companies have access to our solution through the bank card they already have in their pocket. They just don't know it. So they can literally register that card and immediately expense management, virtual cards, all kind of mobile capabilities that are slick and cool that can make doing business a lot easier. So we had a few hundred customers on a weekly basis. We've got several thousand that are leveraging our platform in the billions in volume after just a couple of years in market. So got a lot of growth ahead of us and a lot of excitement. So that's how you get in touch with me, David at paywithextend.com.
Well, David, we'll go ahead and put that stuff in our show notes. Make sure they can get access to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your wisdom.
Hey, Donald, I appreciate you having me. It's a lot of fun. Enjoy watching your stuff too. So for those of you who may be seeing this for the first time, can't imagine because I know you got millions of downloads around the world. But if this is the first time you're seeing Donald, you need to check him out more often. Good stuff. Appreciate it.
Hey, it means a lot. Thanks, David.
All right. Have a great day.
That was David. I'm telling you, the stuff was great. I am so appreciative of him, and I'm so appreciative of you. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and follow him on LinkedIn. Tell him that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist Podcast. We are so stoked, and we're really excited to have you. Listen, as always, we want you to 3 to 5x the sales pipeline. We want you to close twice as many deals. The important part about this is that you got to make sure you're applying the stuff. You can't just listen and just run off. You got to take the stuff and implement it in your day. Connect with us. Check out our sponsors. They have amazing gifts and offers for you. As always, I want you to thrive. I want you to raise your level of thinking and go out and do big things. Go close some enterprise deals. Ring that bell. Make that money. See you on the next one.